In other words, you can achieve 80% of your desired outcomes by investing in only 20% of input, the right 20%. Now, this is a favorite rule in management, and I indeed first picked it up in my management training and during my time in management consulting. But it wasn't really until my current role with Africa Leadership Academy that I really started to contemplate this principle at a much deeper level. For the past year and a half, I've been working with a group of young school leaders across the African continent to help them improve the quality and reach of their organizations. These are incredible entrepreneurs, and they've been able to achieve amazing results against the odds, and many of them work in very difficult and resource-constrained environments. And as a result, they're having to ask themselves constantly, whether consciously or unconsciously, what is the 20% I need to invest in to get 80% of my desired outcomes? The most inspiring example I encountered in this regard came from Kuburwa's primary school in Changwali refugee camp in western Uganda. Kuburwa's serves around 600 children, and over the past 4 years, it has been ranked in the top 6 schools in the entire district, meaning that it was producing results better than not just schools within the refugee camp, but better than schools, Ugandan schools outside the refugee camp, in producing results better than schools sometimes that are much better resourced than what it was. When I asked the executive director, the headmaster, and the teachers about their secret, they all gave me the exact same answer: because we feed our kids. Now, I was amazed by this answer because it was both obvious and not. It's obvious because we all know food is important, it's a basic need, but clearly it wasn't obvious enough because other schools who had more resources weren't doing it. But from the management perspective of Kuburwa's primary school, the choice was clear. If they had to pick between running a classroom under a tree and keeping the food program, or building a nice classroom with chalkboards and chairs and doing away with the food program, they would choose to run the school under the tree. Because to them, the food program is a big part of the 20% they invest in to get 80% of their success. Another thing that impressed me at Kuburwa's is their relatively high teacher retention rate. Kuburwa's has a very selective, a rigorous selection process for their teachers, and most of their teachers are not from the refugee camp. They are Ugandan teachers coming from urban areas all the way to this difficult environment, sometimes leaving families behind, and they stay for a minimum of 3 years, sometimes 4, 5 years. When I learned about this, I was convinced that they must be getting paid handsomely better than whatever the public school, whatever school they came from was paying them. So you can only imagine my surprise when I learned that that was not the case. When I asked teachers, what made you come and stay in this difficult environment, let's say, besides the school's mission appeal, they all once again gave me the exact same answer: because they pay us on time. Now, I had to do a double take on this one, because I was like, what do you mean? Of course they pay you on time. That's a given. But not in this context, because one of the most sticking issues between the Ugandan governments and Ugandan teachers is actually late pay, where payment sometimes is delayed as late as 3 months. So from the perspective of management, once again, getting to the 80% of the desired goal of attracting and retaining good teachers is investing in the 20% of a rigorous selection process in timely pay. Not higher pay, not even professional development. So watching schools like Kuburwa's and others in our network achieve these amazing results in very constrained environments, or very resource-constrained environments, inspired us to start thinking about applying this rule to our own work. What is the 20% we need to invest in to get to the 80% of the goal we have for the schools, which is to set them on a path of sustainable growth? We can do a million things, but starting 2020, we are choosing to invest in only 3 things. 1, to help the schools develop, articulate, and test their own instructional model. 2, to help them build capacity in financial planning and reporting. And 3, to help them build capacity in tracking their progress and telling their story through a solid monitoring and evaluation system. So this is the 20% we hope will get us to the 80% of our desired outcome. 80%, actually more than 80% of the world's young population lives in developing countries, which cannot afford to be unintentional about their spending. I would like to argue that for any of us to become or remain relevant in the field, we have to design solutions with the 80% of the world's young population in mind. And for these solutions to be applicable to these resource-constrained environments and for them to scale, we have to always think about where we can safely cut the fat. Now, this may sound like I'm advocating for lowering the bar, like let's just do the minimum. But I really believe that it's important for us to understand the core of our solutions, the minimum viable products, if we may borrow from the tech world, before we add other features. We can always add other features. Kubura's primary probably should increase pay and definitely needs professional development. But when other schools ask to borrow our solutions, for example, schools that are less resourced than we are, or when the going gets tough and we need to cut down resources, would we know where to safely cut the fat without significantly compromising our results? For me, that's the question. As we design solutions, whether in research or in policy rooms or in the front lines, I invite us all to ask the question, what is the 20% of our solution that gets us 80% of our results? Thank you.